I did want to talk about this because we didn't talk about it yesterday. The layoffs at Bell Media yesterday, as everybody said on Twitter, a dark day in the industry. Not great timing, obviously, with Bell Let's Talk Day being what was it, a month ago, a couple weeks ago. Not great, because there's a lot of people right now that are either out of work or people that still have jobs but don't know if they are going to lose their jobs at some point, and they really don't know what the future is going to hold for them. It's going to be a really tough time for a lot of people, and obviously our hearts go out to all of those people. But what I did want to say today was to all of the students, because I had 3 people reach out to me, 3, which is crazy. um, 3 people reach out to me and say, "Hey, I wanted to get in this industry. I still want to. Why should I try to get in this industry? Like, why would I try to get into an industry that, by all accounts, and what I'm seeing, is dying? An industry that is going through such a transition period that people en masse, 4,800 people yesterday, Harm, were out of work in this industry yesterday. Why should I try and get in this industry?" And I was trying to come up with an answer, and I thought about it a lot, and I leaned on some people that I have regular conversations with, and I want to give a shout out to a few of those people today. But the thing that I really wanted to mention is just that what I've concluded is that the media industry and sports media and all that, and this wasn't all sports media, obviously, but sports media is the context that I'm speaking in, because obviously we saw the layoffs that have happened in this city as well. Sports media is changing. I disagree that it's dying. I think there's always going to be and this is something Ian McIntyre told me very, very early into my career. And I'm going to talk about a few people who I talked to early in my career. Ian McIntyre told me this. He said there's always going to be a desire for information. People want to know, like Canucks fans, they want to know things about their team. They want to know things about the team. So there's always going to be a desire for good information. There's always going to be a desire for good content. You look at all the people. Nuckhead is always in our chat. Nuckhead, I checked out his channel. He makes videos. Just, I don't know where he's doing them from, but you assume he's not doing them in a studio with a big setup or anything like that. There are people that can do this job from home. We did this job from home. Chris and I this podcast started in an empty bedroom in my grandfather's house. That's where this podcast started, right? Like, you don't have to go the traditional route. God knows I didn't, right? You didn't either. Like, we were talking about our schooling. I did English because I thought I was going to be a high school English teacher, and I loved writing. So I had my year at SFU that I did. And, you did like nursing, right? Like,
Yeah,
our
1 year
schooling,
nursing.
our schooling isn't in this industry. I did a year of radio, but I'm going to talk about that. But like, I'm not saying you don't need to go through school, because a lot of the people that reached out to me are in school right now. That's great that you're starting there. But I was talking to a few people that were saying, like, I'm in school for this and I'm terrified. I'm terrified that this industry is changing. I'm terrified of trying to find a job in this ever-changing industry. And all I can say to those people is, I know it's scary. Like, I know it's a scary proposition to have to try to enter a field that looks like it's just heading in the wrong direction. But what I will say is there are companies that are focusing on local content. And I'm not trying to pat us on the back. Look, people can see, obviously, Nation Network and Canucks Army, we're one of those companies that is focusing on local content. You've got The Athletic as well, right? Like, Athletic is investing in Vancouver by investing in you and Tom, right? There are companies that are still doing this, that are still doing it, and they're investing, and they're switching the way they do things. If you try to run things the way you did in the 1970s and the 1980s with terrestrial radio, and you approach it like that and say, okay, this isn't working, we need to close up shop, we need to lay everybody off. If you try to approach it that way, you're going to run into problems. You are. And I'm not trying to sit here on some throne and say, look how great our company is or anything like that. That's absolutely not what I'm trying to do. Absolutely not. I'm just saying that there are companies that are making the transition to digital. There are companies that are finding ways to give you local content and try to make it profitable so that it can continue, right? And trying to make it so that fans aren't getting the short end of the stick. Because when there's layoffs like these, fans and the consumers are the ones that pay the biggest price. NHL teams they can afford to have their own media, But are you getting the best possible content when that's the case? I would argue not, especially not at this current stage with how everything is kind of set up, right? You want that local content, you want that objective kind of reporting that happens, right? There's a quote, I don't know who it's from, but there was a quote that I always think about is in-house reporting or something to that effect is public relations and journalism is journalism. Like in-house journalism is public relations and outside is journalism. And I look at it in that context because you're seeing a lot of it, right? Like you're seeing a lot of these, these big companies, and I'm not even talking about in-house content or anything like that. And I hope that doesn't come across as any sort of shot at, Faber, who's obviously doing in-house content. They do a great job. Obviously, that's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying that you need that local media to continue to thrive. And while it's changing, there's always going to be a level of desire for information in any market. And I just say to all those people out there that are wondering if they should get into this industry, if they should, continue to pursue this, I would say if it's your goal to, get into the chairs we're sitting in right now, or well, maybe not these chairs, but if you're trying to get into sports media, like give it your best shot. And if you don't know where to start, like my DMs are open, I think, on Twitter. Find a way to contact me because I've been talking to a few people lately. Tyson Cole is a prime example. Tyson came to me and said, "Hey, I want to start in this industry. I don't know where to start." And I got him started in the right path. 2 months later, after he started doing good work somewhere else, I said, "Wow, he's doing good work somewhere else. I'm going to bring him on to Canucks Army." And now he writes for Canucks Army, right? There are ways to make a name for yourself in this business. And again, I feel for all the people that have lost their jobs, but I really hope it doesn't discourage too many people the way that it seems like it has, just in the conversations that I've had with some people that are in the schools right now and coming through the industry. I know it seems very daunting, but sports media is changing. It's not dying. It's not dying. I stand by that. I don't think this industry is dying. I just think it's changing a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, you see it with the way that when 1040 first shut down, look at the way that Donnie and Dolly adapted.
There you go.
Halford and Bruff is still
Sakaris
one of
and
the
Price
top
in this studio.
shows. Yeah. So if there's a market for it, if there's an audience for the work that you're doing, the format or the way that it's delivered might change, but there's still going to be a medium. There's still going to be a platform.
And this is my other piece of advice to all of the people, that are in this position where they're trying to figure out what to do. One of the best pieces of advice, because I've gotten a lot of advice and I don't want to just nail it to one, but one call I had very early on in my career was with Rick Dollywall. And you just mentioned Donnie and Dolly. It was with Rick Dollywall, one of the first conversations I ever had in my career. And I said to Rick, I want to be a writer. I'm good at writing. I've started blogging at the Canuck Way at the time, and I want to just grow in writing. And Rick said, "Okay, well, how are you on air?" I was like, "Well, not great. I don't like the sound of my voice. I don't think I'll ever want to be on air. I don't think I'll ever want to do a podcast. I don't think I ever want to do that. I just want to write." And Rick said, "The best thing you can do in this industry is be able to do everything. Become a jack of all trades, be able to do whatever it is that you need to do to, I don't even want to use the word survive because it sounds very dramatic, to stand out, right? Like what can you do to stand out?" And here I am. Now we're 5 days a week doing this podcast. I wouldn't have thought I would have done this when I started in this career. I honest to God, I hated the sound of my own voice. And I know a lot of people have to kind of get over that. And the advice I got from Dollywall was go to radio school if you don't like it. Like if you don't like it and you don't know how to do it, go to BCIT, go learn how to do some stuff in radio. And that's where I ended up. I went to BCIT. I did the radio program for 1 year and then I got offered my current job and I took it. But I did learn a lot. I learned a lot at BCIT when I was there. And again, this isn't an advertisement for BCIT. I know we've been doing a lot of ads lately. It's just me saying that if you're out there and you're discouraged by what you've seen, I completely understand it. But I am going to stress to you that sports media is evolving and it is not dying. And another example of this that I always point to is Jeff Patterson. Jeff Patterson, not to age him, he's been in the business for a very long time. Do you think 30 years ago, 20 years ago, I don't want to age him too much, 20 years ago, do you think Jeff Patterson was thinking, okay, there's going to be a time when I need to write, do a show, a post-game show, and I'm going to film Canucks practices and post it on this thing called Twitter. No chance. And that's what I started to think about was I saw Jeff at training camp before he was even with Canucks Army. Jeff's recording practices and morning skates and he's uploading them to Twitter. And it'd be really easy as a guy like Jeff who has been in the industry for a while, right? Has seen a lot of turnover, all that sort of stuff. It'd be really easy for Jeff to say, I'm not doing that. I'll leave that to the blogs. I'll leave that to the up and comers. I'm not recording and posting stuff on Twitter. I'm at practice. I write and I do radio. That's what I do. It'd be really easy for that. But Jeff reinvented himself. And he's had to do it many times. And that's someone I look up to a lot, is Jeff Patterson. And again, I'm not going to continue on this for too much longer. I just wanted to get it out there that I understand being discouraged, but I would not suggest giving up. And if you've been thinking about it and you don't know where to start, shoot me a message. I've been helping a few people out right now. And yeah, I just want people to know that it's not dying. Like it's not dying. There's always going to be a want for information. You look at how many people watch this show, how many people consume the content at Canucks Army. It is not dying. This industry is not dying.
Well said, man.
Yeah.
And we should point out today is 3 years since 1040 was shut
There
down.
you go.
And to your point, Quads, about the media industry is not dying. It's in a transitional phase, and it's never been easier for people to make their own content and get their voice out there. Whether that's a YouTube channel, you start tweeting, shout out to Tyson Cole, you start writing about the team. Just like pro sports, man, talent will be found. There's always someone watching you, and you can't take the mindset, well, there's no more radio or there's no more television. It's all in a transitional phase. Traditional newspaper has become blogging. It's become Canucks Army. Traditional radio has become podcasting, right? Traditional television is now streaming. There's always going to be a spot for people to hone their craft. And, you get to one day work your way up in the ranks. Like, look at YouTube, for example, David. You started at the Canuck Way, right? And now you're managing editor of Canucks Army. So, for anyone that wants to get in the industry, yeah, it can be challenging at times and discouraging from all the layoffs, but don't give up. If this is really something you want to do, believe me, I've been in it for almost 10 years now. I've never really felt like I've had to work. It's always been, well, there's been some days here and there, but it's such a fun job. And the people you get to meet along the way just make the job so much better. Look at a guy like Canucks Clay, right? Started out his own YouTube channel. Now he's hosting nightly live streams. There's so many people out there that, are trying their hand in, and I give full credit to them, because you won't know what you have until you go actually give it a shot.
Yeah.
Right. So
Nick P in the chat here. There's a lot, and look, we appreciate all the messages. There's a lot of kind things in the chat, and I just want to read out a few of them. Nick P said this: the thing about shows like this is that it comes from a place of passion rather than corporate slop driven by Toronto. Viewers can tell the difference. Obviously, we were both very passionate, both very hyper focused on local. Someone asked if we were in affiliation with Sportsnet, and someone else said if they were, then it would be all Leafs and all baseball, all Blue Jays all the time. And
well, that's the commission that
and Karan said, "Oh, so they are with Sportsnet," because Quads all the time is talking about the Leafs.
But that's baseball. The beauty of independence and having companies like Go Goat Sports, for example, that started rink wide and started Scarce and Price, Nation Network. They're investing in these shows. They're putting money back into the stream. We don't do this for free. Like, at the end of the day, the bills have to be paid, and you want to get to that point where you can be monetized and bring in an audience, and ultimately personality is going to sell at the end of the day. And I think more than anything, you want to be able to entertain people, and that's what especially myself, I take pride in. Sometimes you just put out takes just for the sake of harm your following. Look at you've been one of the up and coming writers in this market, and now you're one of the premier analytical guys. You've kind of carved out your niche. Everyone has that little avenue and path that they can excel in, but at the same time, as you said earlier, Quads, like, if you're in broadcasting school, learn how to run a camera, learn how to switch, learn how to write social media copy, right?
Yeah.
Understand programs like we use here with StreamYard. There's so much that you can learn.
And a lot of this is on YouTube too. Like,
yeah,
you can
all
learn
out there for you.
And Ty David, I like this one. radio stations are expensive to run, but Quad's grandfather's basement suite is free. And you were at Nonno's house back in the day. I just talked to him. He was trying to tell me about what's going on in wrestling right now with Roman Reigns and The Rock. Big controversy right now in WWE. And my Nonno told me about it today. So,
but
anyways.
That's the thing too. Like these big companies, at the end of the day, it's about dollars and cents. And if they can, not pay their overhead of staff and have a button presser for one show that's all pre-recorded, that's what they're going to do. But it shows you that people are rebelling. Like look what the talk about is about the corporations right now, and I'm not going to get into the weeds here about it, but that's why people are looking for different outlets nowadays, is because they want to find their niche topics and not just have Maple Leafs, Raptors, Leafs jam down their throats 24/7.
Yep. All right, anything to add, Harman?
No, I think you guys summed it up pretty well.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, there was one more that I wanted to get. Someone said, what's with the lighting on Harm's screen? We tried something, folks. We tried to let natural light in to the studio.
Yeah, the camera settings.
It was a bad
funny.
decision. It didn't.
I was trying to adjust it on the fly, but
what was going on? I couldn't see it.
It was like your Nashville hotel room. It got very dark.
You go light and dark.
Yeah, it got very dark. Canucks Conversation with Harman and Quads every weekday at 2 p.m. Be sure to check it out on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. And if you missed it, go check it out on your favorite podcast catcher app.